So most business owners think that profit is something that they make, which it's not. Profit is the reward you get as the business owner when you manage the things in front of it, the income and the expenses, really well. It's the outcome of your work. Now, every business owner I talk to is incredibly time poor and incredibly resource or cash strapped. And the challenge they're facing is like, how can I make sure that I'm getting rewarded for this? I'm getting the profit I need. When you look at your profitability under this simple framework of a profit formula, you can clearly see where to put your time and effort so that you're getting a reward for it, so that it's not wasted time and effort. And in this framework that I'm going to teach you today, this is the exact framework that I've used in every one of my businesses, which have all scaled now to multi-millions. And it's in the same framework I teach everybody who comes through my programs. This is the key to being able to make sure that you're putting your time and efforts into the right part of your business that are going to generate the reward, the result that you want, which is more profitability and more cash flow. This concept of the profit formula, what I want people to understand that is once you learn this framework, this is a skill that is going to serve you for life as a business owner. Because it doesn't matter if you're a complete startup, 100K, 500K, 1 million, 10 million, 50 million, the rules of profit are exactly the same the whole way up. So this framework of understanding how income minus expenses and going a layer deeper and seeing the different profit levers within that formula, the rules of that framework are exactly the same the whole way up. And so it doesn't matter for me whether I'm talking to someone about a business idea they haven't started, I'm coaching somebody who's in that 500 to a million or a million to 5 million, or even when I'm working with clients who are doing 50 million, I'm still applying this exact same framework to be able to look at their numbers and identify what is their next constraint they need to overcome. What is the next challenge? What is the bottleneck they're currently facing in their business that's stopping them from making more profit? And then how do we break that down and work our way through it? So that's the framework I want to cover with everybody today in this session. Now, I'm just going to throw a couple of slides on here for pre-context about where we're at. This concept of scaling up a business, right? If we're looking at profit over time, this is not what happens. You do not scale profit as a lovely straight line in business as you're scaling up. What happens with our profit, it goes through these peaks and valleys as we're scaling the business up. Now, you've got to, I know everybody thinks, I go through peaks and valleys because of COVID or summer or winter or whatever. These are external factors. Let's ignore all of those for a second. Even if you had a lovely smooth market that was just growing steadily with your business, your profit is still going to look like this. It's still going to have peaks and valleys as we're scaling, because what's happening here is every time we hit a peak, we're at a constraint point. The business cannot grow any further because we've come against some challenge which is keeping us stuck. That'll either be the number of leads or how many hours in the day you and your team can work, or it's that you've just maxed out this location or this environment, or your equipment's fully utilized. Whatever it is, you're constantly reaching bottlenecks or like peak points in your business. And the market's there. You can see that you can grow to the next peak. However, to be able to do it, we need to invest in our solution of that constraint. So to solve, we've got to invest in whatever's going to solve this constraint point for us. That looks like bringing on more team members, hiring new equipment, opening a new location, whatever it is. And in those moments of investment, we're obviously increasing the expense side to solve that challenge. We're going to have that moment where we're going backwards before we can go forwards, before we can now fill the business up and scale to the next point. And like I said, every business goes through this journey. This is what life is like, growing and scaling a business. Now, where numbers play a key role in this, when you are really clear on your numbers and you're actually using them to help you make the right decisions and see what decisions you should be making along the line, along the journey, you're going to go through this scaling up process so much faster and so much more confidently, because when you can read the numbers, you can automatically identify exactly where you are in this journey. And you can see what the numbers are going to look like at the next peak. And so then you can basically compare point A to point B here on my chart, and you can compare the two sets of numbers and you can clearly see what needs to change. What's the thing I need to fix? I need to have more team to be able to do more hours worth of work. I need to have more equipment. Whatever it is, we can solve for it. Now, I just want to stress again that the framework of how we do this is the same at every step along the way, but the constraint or the challenge that you're solving is different at every step of the way. So there's basically 4 parts to solving one of these constraints. It's first of all, identifying what the constraint is, compare the numbers from one to the period, identify what it is that's keeping us stuck. The second thing is understanding how much is it going to cost me to solve for that constraint? How much is it going to cost me to buy that equipment, open that new location, or hire that new team member, or invest in that new marketing activity or coaching, whatever it might be that you need to solve. So step one, identify the challenge, the bottleneck. Step two, work out how much it's going to cost you to solve that challenge. Step three, take a look at how much profit is waiting for you on the other side of solving that challenge. So I'm going to invest in a new team member, but once we get that person up to speed and capacity, how much profit am I making? And then obviously the final step number 4 is if the reward for doing the work outweighs the investment cost to solve it, pull the trigger, go ahead and do it. You've got confidence now, you've got data and numbers supporting you on that decision, go and make that decision and go for it. Okay, so this is the framework that I'm talking about, and it's about understanding your profit formula so that you can always see clearly where you are and where you want to go. And this works for understanding what my next right challenge is, what the next bottleneck or constraint is I'm solving. It also helps you to be really clearly future-paced with this. You can map out your numbers for the next 5 years and see, am I going to hit my 5-year dream? Or we could identify what your 5-year dream is and reverse engineer the numbers so we can clearly see what does my profit formula look like at that level. And now it's just a game of how do I get from here to there? There's going to be many steps along the way, but I can see, right, I'll be adding new team members and new locations, etc., as we're going through the journey to get there. So I'm talking about profitability specifically and being able to read the numbers and realize, okay, to go from A to B, I need to go down through a valley as I make that investment, and then I'm focusing on whatever it is that's going to help me scale to that point. It's a balancing act though. As we're making these moves about what do I invest in to grow and scale my profit, it's that double act of always understanding what is it I'm aiming to do, what's the thing I'm going for, but at the same time, you need to also have a clear understanding of like how much resources do you have. So I'm talking about how much petrol do you have in the car? Is it going to make the journey that we're going on right now? And specifically there, I'm talking about your financial resources. Do we have the cash flow to support us going through the valley? Do we have enough capital, or can we get the capital we require at a cheap enough cost that it supports us going through this valley that we're going to come out of? And so this is the balancing act of profit and cash flow that all of us business owners are facing. Okay, that's the scaling up journey, talking about understanding your profit formula as the way to get through it. I love this simple model. I call it the finance ecosystem. What I love about it is it helps business owners to see that there's actually 3 different types of numbers which we need to be tracking and forecasting and planning in our business so that we can confidently and really clearly go through this journey of scaling up our business. So those 3 sets of numbers, as a reminder, there's the numbers which are all about profitability. How well is the money-making machine doing at making money? And this is what we're going to be focusing on today in terms of our profit formula and what the profit playbook is. Second set of numbers though is our balance sheet in accounting words. This is the one which is all about your financial position. So it tells you on any given day, what do I own, my assets, and what do I owe to other people, my liabilities, so that I can clearly understand what is my current financial position? What is my net worth? And that financial position, what is it made up of? How much of it is cash? How much is it people who owe me? How much is it money I owe to other people? How much is tied up in long-term assets I can't actually do anything with from a cash perspective? And these two work hand in hand because obviously if we're making profit, we're getting wealthier. That the profit we make flows into our balance sheet, we get wealthier. Or if we have periods of time where we're actually making a loss, we get financially weaker, the wealth is flowing back the other way. And then we've got our third set of numbers, which is our cash flow. And this is purely looking at the timing of cash coming in and out of your bank account. And so it doesn't matter what business you're in, everybody's cash flow is a complete roller coaster ride. And that's largely just because of the cycles of timing differences that are coming through your bank account, which create this impact of, if you were to overlay weekly transactions with fortnightly, with monthly, with quarterly transactions, if we overlay those one on top of the other, there's going to be those weeks where everything lands in one week. You've got a weekly payment, a fortnightly thing, a monthly rent is the same time as the quarterly BAS is due and the bank balance goes crashing down. And so really key to understand that cash flow is a whole separate area of our numbers that we need to, most importantly, we need to forecast because we need to see the highs and lows long in advance before they come. And so we want to do cash flow through a cash flow forecaster. So this is my finance ecosystem model. I love talking about this because it doesn't matter what we're facing in a business. Any kind of situation, we can clearly understand okay, how is this going to impact my profitability, my ability to make money? How is this going to impact my cash flow? Can I afford it? And what is this actually doing for me in terms of my wealth? Is it building wealth or not building wealth, going the opposite? Okay, purpose of today's conversation, we're talking about profit and profitability. Now, when I come to talk about profit, the key thing that I really want everybody to understand is just a reminder, profit is just a result. You cannot just go make profit as a business owner. All you can do as a business owner is focus on the two things that come before it, the income and the expenses. And profit is just the result you get or the reward you get when you manage the two things in front of it really well. Okay, so we need to understand that profit is a formula, and where can you direct your efforts as the business owner? If you want to make more profit, knowing it's a simple formula, that the headline here is, well, either more income or less expenses. Those are my two options that are going to get me there. All right, so profit is a formula. Now, at this high level, income and expenses, that's not super useful to you as a business owner. I want you to go the next layer down where we talk about the high level business drivers that drive your profit formula. So when we're talking about income, I'm saying let's break that up into our prices that we're charging and the number of customers that we're having. And then when we're talking about our expenses, I like to look at these as 5 different buckets of expenses. These are what I refer to as the business drivers. So these are your cost of sales, the costs which are going to go up and down directly in proportion to the sales. We've got our team cost. We've got our marketing and growth investments. We have property. If we're a bricks and mortar business, really important that we highlight that on its own right so we can see the capacity of that one as we're going along as a fixed cost. And then finally, we have our overheads. And it's these 7 numbers in total, 2 on the income side and 5 on the expense side. These are what make up the profit formula when I'm talking about profit formula and learning your profit formula and where you're at. And this is the framework that I want every business owner to be looking at their profitability within. Because when you look at your profit under this framework, we can start to see which part of my business, when we look at our profit under this framework, we can start to see what things can I change and what things can't I change. And the reason I want people to look at their profit under this framework with these 7 numbers is because straight away we can see what things can I change and what things can't I change, which is, I think, really great as a business owner because that helps to focus you on what you can actually do something about. And you don't waste time trying to change stuff that you can't change. You realize basically how profit is made in your business and what levers and stuff you can play with. But the really important thing here, this is the key point, is that you can be strategic about where you're putting your time and effort, where you're going to get the most bang for your buck or return on investment or return on your effort and time of your efforts as a business owner to be able to change the profit in your business. Now, there is not a single business owner out there who I've ever spoken with or I've ever coached who has ample time and ample cash and financial resources. These are the 2 key constraints, time and let's just go with dollar signs, which just means cash. Every business owner I talk to has restrictions on them in terms of time and cash about what they want to do. And that level of restriction is kind of relative to wherever the person is. Someone who's a solopreneur, they're doing everything, their time's very limited, their business might not be super profitable, so they're pretty cash strapped and they're deciding where they're going to put the money. Equally, when I talk to someone who's got an enterprise, they've got 100 employees and the business is turning over 10 million or plus, and they've got, what seems like plenty of profitability, it's still, when I talk to that person, they're still a very time poor leader and a very cash poor leader in terms of where they can put their time and effort to keep changing the business. Now, why this is so important is because for you as a business owner, when you're looking at the profitability of your business under this framework of the profit formula, you can see where should you invest your time and your money into your profit formula. Which one of those numbers or areas within your business should you be putting it, which is going to result in, like I said, the most bang for your buck in terms of your effort and your money, in terms of boosting profitability. That's why this is so key. That's why every business owner should learn this basic profit formula framework, because at every step of the journey, you want to make sure that the time and effort that you're putting into your business is spent on the right thing. I've never found a business owner who's guilty of not doing too much. Everybody's always busy and doing too much, but they're oftentimes putting that energy and effort into the wrong area. They're putting it into a part that's very hard to change the result of the profitability. They're not looking at all of these levers on their own right and seeing, right, if I put 1% here, 1% there, 1% there, I can clearly see which one right now is going to move profit the most. And it's not always just put your prices up, or it's not always just get your costs down. Like I said, as you're going through the scaling up journey, different things are going to come to the top in terms of what's the most priority thing for you right now. If I were to look at my own journey with the beach bars, which we grow, in those initial years, getting our costs down, cost of the direct cost of sales was key. And we spent 18 months where every quarter, that was always the top priority, top priority, top priority. Just kept coming up when we're looking at our profit formula. That was the thing we need to fix. And we kept fixing it and kept fixing it until we got it to a point where we got our systems refined, our processes down. We'd invested in certain areas, giving us a great return around getting our cost of sales down. Now, cost of sales in that business are incredibly consistent. And we've gone now from, in those days, we were trading around the sort of $1.5 to $2 million mark. We're now turning over about $11 million. Cost of sales has been spot on the whole way through the journey. And it hasn't come to the top very often as one of the key things we should be focusing on, where we're going to get our best ROI for our time and effort and money as we're scaling the business. Other areas are, lately it's been around team, sometimes it's been around marketing and growing market share in the business. Okay, so learn this framework because it's going to serve you every step of the way. What is the framework specifically? Let me talk through that. So this is what I refer to as the profit formula. It's where we need to, first of all, again, just acknowledge that base level formula, that profit is just the result that you get when you manage the two things in front of it really well. Okay, we've got to get over this idea that this profit first mentality as well is a key thing here. Oh, I'll just go and make profit. This is how much profit I want to make. The challenge with that is it focuses you all on just scarcity mindset of how can I reduce my expenses to focus on, to boost profitability. I'm not going to get into that any further today, but when we learn this basic profit formula, which I'm going to show you now, we're able to look at both the income and the expenses holistically and see which ones are going to help boost my profitability the most. So, okay, we've talked here, it's income minus expenses equals profit. So as a business owner, headline, let's have more income, let's have less expenses. That's how we're going to get there. What I teach everybody is to look at their profit formula at this next layer down here. At this layer here, where we've now seen the 7 key, what I refer to as the 7 key business drivers. And I know this methodology is unique to me. This is the methodology I created myself, and where this came from was my background of being a CFO for a globally listed marketing agency. We were looking at these certain buckets in the way we were tracking and comparing our businesses across the board. But it was once I was able to take that method and apply it in my own small businesses that I could clearly see where this bottleneck, constraint, solve it, invest, move to the next level, how this played out through the profit formula in a small business. And so I've refined this down just to these 7 categories, and you'll see why they work in just a second. So what are these categories? We're talking about price, we're talking about volume. Those are the 2 headline things that we need to split our income in. Yes, you can go a lot deeper than this. Yes, you might have different offers and pricings and things like that. That's going deeper and deeper again into each one of these topics. And you'll see in a minute, like each one of these topics, we can keep going deeper. But at the headline kind of level where I want people operating, we're just looking at average price, number of customers, or number of transactions. And then when we're looking at the expenses, we've got 5 different categories here. And what these expense categories represent is direct costs of sales. So if I'm a bar, it's the food and the drink I'm buying to sell. If I'm a builder or a tradie, it's like the material costs that I'm buying to do the jobs with. If I'm a retailer, or an e-com business, it's the raw product that I'm buying to sell. And then we've got our team cost. And I really like separating team from cost of sales and just looking at team as one whole bucket, because the way you manage people from a leadership perspective and get the most out of them is very different from how you get costs down in terms of cost control. Marketing and growth, really key that we look at how much we're specifically and purposefully investing in growing the business. Property, this is only relevant if you're a bricks and mortar business where the rent is like an issue for you, like it's a big cost to start with, but we're also looking at, are we getting the most out of our sites? And then finally, bucket number 5 is the overheads. And that's really just every cost that doesn't fit into one of the 4 in front of it, I drop that into the overheads bucket. Now, when you start looking at your business at this profit formula level, with specifically your numbers written down. So you should be able to write these out for your business. For example, I own a bar, which I know is doing like $25 average transaction, 12,000 sales happen per month. So that's giving me the total sales figure. And then I know what I'm spending on my cost of sales, 30%, targeting 40% for team. We invest 10K in marketing, 20K in property, and 20K in overheads. And we're able to see, if you were to map that through, you're going to see a business which is making a profit of about 40,000 a month, or a 13,000 margin, or some 13% margin, something like that. It's knowing these specific numbers for your business, and these numbers are obviously going to change, remember, as we're going through the scaling up journey. Different numbers are going to come to the top, and life in business, right? The cost of production and labor costs and things are always ebbing and flowing and changing around you. But it's being able to stay on top of this formula, which means that now I can look at each one of these numbers as a leverage point, you know. That's meant to be a fulcrum and a lever, but if we draw basically like a little triangle, a leverage point here to represent this, I'm saying, well, if I put some effort into here, is this going to change my profit a lot? Or if I put effort into here, is it going to change my profit a lot? If I put it into here, and we're able just to see which one of these areas, better pricing, more volume, lower cost of sales, lower team costs, which one of these areas is going to have the greatest impact on the profit result that's coming out of here. Why is this so important? Because if remember, we go back to here, you have limited time and you have limited capital. Where are you going to invest it so that you're moving, you're putting your efforts into the part of your profit formula which is going to move profit the most for you, okay? And sometimes when you start looking at the profit formula like this, you start to see that it's can sometimes be a bit counterintuitive. And by that, I mean, it's not just about increase income and decrease expense. Sometimes it's like, well, if I invest more into my team, it means I'm able to charge higher prices. Or if I invest more into my team, I have more capacity and I'm able to do a lot more volume. Or maybe I increase my investments into marketing. And all of a sudden, that is what generates a lot more volume for me in my business. And so it's looking at the formula holistically and seeing how that's going to play out for you. I have a tool, the Profit Calculator. You can get it free off my website. You can find it on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere you can find me. You can grab yourself a copy of the Profit Calculator. It's just a basic one that's online there, but through that, you'll be able to put in your 7 numbers and see clearly where your business is making profit right now and where would you like it to be and how it's going to be able to make profit once you've solved that next constraint for yourself. And this is where you can play out all the what-if scenarios. Well, what if I put team costs up or marketing costs up? But that enables me to move to a different level of volume. And you can see the results of these decisions before you go and make them. And this is what I talk about, being strategic with your numbers and actually using your numbers to help guide you in your decisions. Because I promise you, you'll go through this journey a heck of a lot faster when you're really clear about your numbers and using them to make the right decisions in your business. Okay, just yesterday, we had our quarterly strategy session for all of our clients within the Profit Analyst coaching program. What we do in this session is, first of all, we help people get really clear on looking at their results for the last quarter, what's winning, what's not winning within their profit formula specifically, get them really clear on what their numbers are and what the levers are. But then we go through this strategic process where we use some of our tools. In particular, we have this great calculator we call the Power of One calculator. It's a tool where we're able to put in our 7 numbers and we're able to clearly see, based on just a 1% shift in that number or that area of my business, what is that going to do for me in terms of boosting my profitability? And the beauty of this is when our clients enter their numbers in here, they can instantly see what is my right area right now. Which part of my business should I be investing my time and effort into to grow and scale my business? And it's a very, I think, relatively simple tool to use, but I love it because it just keeps everybody focused on what is their next right move within their business. And it was a really powerful session again for the clients yesterday because everybody left that meeting crystal clear on what their business objectives are for the next quarter because they're working on the part of their business which is going to continually grow and scale their profitability. There's a clear reward for them that, this is where I'm putting my efforts and this is where my profit is going to go from here to here. And that's super exciting and it's super motivating and empowering for you as a business owner to know that where you're putting your time and effort in your business is on the one area that's actually going to move things the most. Like I've said, this profit formula, it's a framework that you can follow and it will help life as a business owner going through this scaling up journey so much easier. Okay, so the key punchline of all of this is that the difference between being busy or being profitable is knowing where to put your efforts. Because once you start putting your efforts into the right parts of your business that are going to result in profitability in your business, I promise you, it won't take long before the results start coming in and things start to change for you and you start going through the scaling up journey so much easier and you start getting rewarded for your time and effort appropriately.